Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my TuroViews. This time we're changing the pace a little bit and going from a compact SUV such as the CX-5 to a rather small hatchback. As you probably could tell by the title of this review, I am now driving a Lexus CT200h. Now, the reason I chose this car is because it is a premium hybrid alternative for the urban savvy kind of guy. This car was created by Lexus to tap into a market which was made up by people loving the Prius, loving what the Prius stands for and loving what it can do for you, but that weren't really willing to go with a brand such as Toyota. Now, the Lexus comes with a higher price tag than a Prius, but is it justified? Well, that's what we're trying to find out. So, looking at the technical point of view, the Lexus shares a lot of its underpinnings with the Prius. However, the Lexus, the CT200h, is also borrowing parts from other cars in the Toyota and Lexus ranges. To be more precise, the powertrain and the front end of the car are basically taken off of the Prius. The engine, the 1.8 liter Atkinson cycle engine up front, together with the battery and the front axle, are basically the same as in a Prius. However, the rear axle comes from the GS250h, and some other parts on this car are coming from different Toyota and Lexus models. The overall package is absolutely okay. You will probably be surprised to learn that this thing can do on a regular 43 miles to the gallon, and that's all due to its hybrid technology. When driving around, how is it to drive, you might ask? Well, driving it around is what you might expect. The biggest issue I have with it is the Cvt Gearbox, but I understand why it was used. If you're not familiar with what the Cvt Gearbox is, I'm not going to go into details, but the CVT stands for Continuously Variable Transmission. That means the car will keep a certain RPM and change its transmission ratio in order to push you forward. Basically, it feels like a vacuum cleaner. The harder you press the pedal, the faster you go, but the RPM will stay basically the same. It's a weird sensation the first time you drive one, but you can get used to it. Now, the CT200h was also designed to be a sportier alternative to the Prius, and in general it really is. Now, on the center console you have a button that allows you to choose different driving modes, from Eco and Pure EV mode, which basically uses only the battery to push you around, to Normal and Sport mode. The first three modes, EV, Eco and Normal, are just normal driving modes, but getting in Sport mode and the car changes a bit to offer you a better driving sensation. What happens is the suspension stiffens up a little and the steering gets a bit harder gets a bit stiffer as well, while the electric motor inside the car delivers more voltage to help out during acceleration. Overall, it really works. It feels okay on the road. The car is pretty much stable. Push it to the limit and you will get understeer out of it, but it is flat on the road. Also because it's heavy, not only because it was set up that way. Pushing it through bends, you won't basically call this car a sports car. You really have to manage your expectations, but compared to the Prius, it really is a step up. It really is a step up inside too, as maybe the design isn't all that great, as for example the display for the radio and the multimedia seems to come off on an 80s Toyota, but other than that, if you get the navigation system, this car doesn't have one. If you get the navigation system, you're pretty much okay. You will have to adjust to Lexus's mouse infotainment system controller, but you'll basically be able to use it after a couple of days. The leather inside is premium, since Lexus is a premium brand. The fit and finish is superior to the priors, and you also get a lot less NVH inside the car. The noise is better muffled out. The car rides better. The only gripe I have with it is the fact that there's plenty of tire road noise coming inside, but I'm guessing that's just something that they couldn't help, since the car is running on eco-friendly tires. Also, I don't like the fact that you have this tiny little gear shift lever that basically looks like a toy. Yeah, it gets the job done, but it looks just absolutely ridiculous. Other than that, I can also add as a complaint the fact that the suspension is a bit harsher than you would expect. It's definitely harsher and stiffer than on a Prius, and I'm guessing the reason for that is to create this sporty feeling inside. It doesn't really work, and the car is a bit stiffer than you might expect. Other than that, the seats are really comfortable, the leather holds up very well, and you cannot really complain. On the outside, the exterior design is absolutely okay for a Lexus. Now, I'm not a big fan, and I should point this out from the get-go. I'm not a big fan of recent Lexus designs. They seem too crowded and too aggressive on the front end, looking like massive vacuum cleaners. But this car is a 2011 model and it still has some design cues from the early 2010 models. It looks okay to my taste. It is low slung and it looks absolutely okay. It is so low that you actually have to be careful sometimes pulling into driveways. That's about it about the exterior. It's really okay. One of the better looking cars in the Lexus range, in my opinion. Of course, you guys may think otherwise, but to me, this is one of the best looking cars you can still get from Lexus. Speaking of getting cars from Lexus, this brand new right now is the cheapest car you can get in the Japanese brand's range. It starts at about $30,000, and to be honest, it's worth every penny. That's if you want to buy a new car, but the whole point of me doing these reviews is to show you alternatives on the second-hand market. Right now, you can get the 2011, 2012 early CT200h model for as low as 15 grand. Now, that is the perfect price for this car. Why am I saying that? Because the maintenance of these cars and their engines make them basically bulletproof. You can get these cars with close to 100,000 miles like this one has, the one I'm driving, and you wouldn't expect any issues from it. Now, Japanese cars' reliability is legendary and everybody knows about it, but these are exceeding even the expectations of the most conservative people. As far as maintenance goes, you just have to change the oil, brake pads, and the usual stuff on them. And an advantage of regenerative braking like this car has is that brake pads last a lot longer. Around forums across the world, people are saying that you can do 50, 80, even 100,000 miles with one set of brake pads, and that will save you quite a lot of money. Furthermore, oil changes are pretty inexpensive. Yes, initially, if you bought a new car, you'd have to go to a Lexus dealership, and that would in turn entail additional costs. But if you're in the second-hand market, these cars are already 5 or 6 years old and they are out of warranty. So basically, if you're a bit tech savvy, you can change the oil and oil filter and so on yourself on these cars, saving you a lot of money. Even if you don't do that, across a 5-year ownership, you would end up spending about $5,000 on maintenance altogether. Compare that with the $12,000 that you would be saving in gas. Those are not my own calculations, but other people have done that. For an average of 15,000 miles covered a year, and you're pretty much earning money on these cars. So overall, these are bulletproof cars that get over 40 mpg. They're even more efficient around town, as you would expect a hybrid to be. Another thing I love about this car is that it feels so normal, even though it is so obvious it is special. What I mean by that is that this car is a hybrid, right? And a lot of people are expecting hybrids to feel different, but they really don't. The transition between the power petrol engine and the electric motor is so seamless you can barely feel it. Some of that credit goes to the engine that is quite silent at low speeds, and it's well balanced. Some of the credit goes to the engineers that managed to do the integration of the hybrid system so well. Now, one thing you might have to get used to are the regenerative brakes. As I said, having regenerative brakes help you on the long run because maintenance of the brake pads will be a lot cheaper. You'll have to change your brake pads a lot less across the car's lifespan. But they are a bit, I don't know, if you didn't drive any hybrid car before or a car with regenerative brakes, you might be surprised. They have a strong initial bite and not a lot of feel. What that means is you really have to tiptoe around them, and once you start pressing more on the pedal, the feedback you get is not as big as you might expect. That results in people usually braking too hard or too slow while driving this car. Now that's an issue that you can easily get used to. It's not a big problem on the long run, and the fact that this car has regenerative brakes means that you get to store a lot more energy in the battery just by braking at stoplights. As a matter of fact, the car regenerates its battery quite a lot on the road. You just need to cover 10 miles and you already have plenty of energy in it to get you rolling. Another thing I like about this car is how the hybrid system works. Unlike other models such as BMW's hybrids, for example, it doesn't use up all the energy stored in the battery and then leave you driving around town just relying on your petrol engine. No, this car uses the electric motor in order to get you rolling, and then the internal combustion unit kicks up in order to maintain the speed at a certain level or accelerate. That's the best way to go about it because it allows you to save the most fuel. As you may know, the most fuel is being used up when you're setting the car in motion, because going from stationary to moving requires a lot of energy. Doing that with an electric motor, you save up an amazing amount of fuel, and as I said, you get about 41 mpg on a regular. Of course, the 1.8 liter under the hood is not all that powerful, and the electric motor doesn't have all that much grunt, which means this car is not extremely fast. It actually does 60 miles an hour in close to 10 seconds, as you're about to see. Overall, this car gets an 8 from me because it is great to drive, it is very fuel efficient, a hybrid, and looks good. The only downsides being the fact that they are a bit on the small side, and the CVT transmission doesn't make them incredible to drive. They're okay, but not all that great. That's about it about the Lexus CT200h. Oh, before I forget, as far as regular issues or common issues go with these cars, I couldn't find anything that would create a template that would be recognized as a usual problem on CT200h models. Basically, the owners, yeah, have reported issues with them, but nothing that would repeat itself so that to create a pattern. The only thing I could find was that sunroofs sometimes give up. They're called exploding sunroofs because they crack and break, but that's not really an issue for everyone because not all cars come with a sunroof in the first place. So basically, these cars are absolutely okay in terms of viability. This was my review of the CT200h. Hope you guys liked it. Once again, if you have any suggestions, if you're interested in buying a car and you don't know what to make of it, just hit me up. I'll be more than glad to do a review. Until next time, see you guys.